The envelope arrived in April. Plain white. County Assessor's return address in the upper left corner. The kind of official government mail that signals something requires attention, without signaling anything requires urgency. Carol, 71 years old, retired school librarian, homeowner in suburban Denver for 22 years, recognized it immediately. She had received this envelope every year for 2 decades. She opened it standing over the kitchen counter the way she always does. The assessed value printed on the notice was $487,000. Last year it was $412,000, an increase of $75,000 in a single year. The property tax calculation at the bottom of the form showed her annual bill would increase by approximately $1,050 based on the new assessed value. Carol looked at the number for a moment. It seemed high. The house needed a new roof. 2 windows on the north side had been drafty for 3 years. A comparable house 2 streets over sold last fall for $441,000. But this came from the county. Official envelope, official seal, official number. She assumed they had done their research. The notice went on top of the other mail on the kitchen counter. What the county did not print in bold at the top of that notice, what the county has no legal obligation to print in bold anywhere on that notice, is this. Carol had 45 days from the date of that mailing to formally contest the assessed value. 45 days to file a formal appeal requesting a hearing before the County Board of Assessment Review. 45 days to submit evidence showing the county's $487,000 estimate of her home's value was inaccurate. Comparable sales, an independent appraisal, a list of the home's documented defects and deferred maintenance that reduce market value below the assessed figure. On day 46, the window closes permanently. The $487,000 assessment stands for the next reassessment cycle, potentially 4 years in Colorado. Carol will pay taxes on assessed value that may be $46,000 to $75,000 too high for 4 consecutive years. At Jefferson County's effective property tax rate of approximately 0.55%, the overpayment runs $253 to $413 per year. Over a 4-year cycle that is between $1,012 and $1,650 in taxes paid on a number the county may have gotten wrong and Carol never challenged, not because she did not have grounds to challenge it. Because the deadline ran out while the notice sat on the kitchen counter with the other mail. I am the digital defender. This week, I went through state-by-state property tax appeal data, county assessor procedures across the 50 most populated counties in America, and 2026 assessment increase statistics. And what I found is a deadline so consistently misunderstood, so routinely buried in assessment notices, and so permanently consequential when missed, that it represents one of the most expensive pieces of inaction a senior homeowner can take in any given year. Property tax bills jumped 9 to 15% in many states in 2026, not because homeowners suddenly became wealthier, because home values appreciated over the past 3 to 5 years, and county reassessments are finally catching up to those values. Assessors across the country recalibrated their roles this year, and in many cases, the new assessments are not accurate. They overshoot. They use algorithmic models applied to broad market data that do not account for the specific condition, specific features, and specific comparable sales of individual properties. Studies of property tax appeal outcomes consistently show that between 40 and 60% of formal residential assessment appeals result in a reduction. That is not a marginal success rate. That is roughly half of all homeowners who formally challenge their assessment winning a reduction. Half. The appeals that do not win are not all without merit. Many are dismissed on procedural grounds, filed too late, missing required documentation, submitted to the wrong office. The appeal process has specific requirements and specific deadlines, and missing either one ends the challenge regardless of how legitimate the underlying case is. Smash the like button right now. Not at the end, because property tax assessment notices are arriving in mailboxes across America right now in the spring and summer of 2026, and every homeowner who opens one and puts it on the kitchen counter without understanding the appeal deadline is starting the clock they cannot see running against them. One tap tells the algorithm to push this into the feeds of the homeowners who need it before their window closes. Hit it, subscribe, and flip the bell, because this is the archive and I release a new investigation every single week. This is not legal advice. Property tax appeal procedures are county-specific and state-specific. This is the masterclass on a deadline the county assessor has no obligation to explain and no incentive to advertise. Let me walk you through exactly what a property tax assessment appeal is, because most homeowners conflate it with other property tax processes and miss the specific power it gives them. Your property tax bill is determined by two numbers multiplied together: the assessed value of your property, which is the county's estimate of what your home is worth, and the tax rate set by your local taxing authority. The tax rate is set by elected officials through the budget process and applies to every property owner in the jurisdiction. You cannot appeal the tax rate, you can only appeal the assessed value. A property tax appeal is a formal request for the county to review and potentially reduce the assessed value of your specific property. It is separate from and in addition to any senior exemption programs you may qualify for. Exemptions reduce your taxable base by a flat amount or percentage. Appeals reduce the total assessed value before the exemption is even applied. A senior homeowner who both files for exemptions and successfully appeals inflated assessment gets the benefit of both reductions simultaneously. They are not mutually exclusive. Most senior homeowners who know about exemptions do not know about appeals. Most homeowners who know about appeals do not know they can combine both. The appeal process in most states works as follows. You receive your assessment notice. You have a window of 30 to 60 days, depending on your state and county, to file a formal written appeal. You submit evidence supporting your claim that the assessed value is incorrect. A county review board hears your case. The board either reduces the assessment, upholds it, or in rare cases increases it. Your property tax bill is then calculated based on the revised assessed value. The evidence that wins appeals is specific and quantifiable. Recent sales of comparable properties, homes similar in size, age, condition, and location to yours that sold in the recent market, carry the most weight. If your home is assessed at $487,000 and 3 comparable homes on your street sold in the past 6 months for $441,000, $448,000, and $435,000, that data directly challenges the county's valuation with market evidence. Documented property defects that reduce market value, a failing roof, foundation issues, structural damage, deferred maintenance are additional evidence categories that review boards accept. An independent appraisal ordered specifically for the appeal carries significant weight and typically costs between $300 and $600. Now let me show you exactly what an inflated assessment costs in real dollar terms across different markets, so the financial consequence is concrete and personal. Scenario 1. Suburban Ohio home. Assessed at $385,000. The homeowner believes the accurate market value is closer to $345,000 based on recent comparable sales in the neighborhood. The assessment is $40,000 too high. Ohio's effective property tax rate is approximately 1.5%. Tax on the inflated $40,000 is $600 per year. Ohio reassesses properties on a 6-year cycle in most counties. Without an appeal, the homeowner pays $600 per year in unnecessary taxes for 6 consecutive years. Total unnecessary payment, $3,600. With a successful appeal, the $40,000 overassessment is corrected in the base year, and the savings run for the full 6-year cycle. Scenario 2. A suburban Chicago, Illinois home. Assessed at $610,000. Comparable sales in the past 90 days show similar homes selling for $540,000 to $565,000. The assessment is $45,000 to $70,000 above the supportable market value. Cook County's effective property tax rate is approximately 2.2%. Tax on a $60,000 overassessment is $1,320 per year. Cook County conducts triennial reassessments on a 3-year cycle. Without an appeal, the homeowner pays $1,320 per year for 3 years. Total unnecessary payment, $3,960. With a successful appeal, the correction runs for the full triennial cycle. Scenario 3. A home in the San Francisco Bay Area of California, assessed at $890,000. The homeowner purchased the home in 2001 and benefits from California's Proposition 13, which limits annual assessment increases to 2%. But supplemental assessments triggered by recent improvements or permit activity may have temporarily inflated the assessed value above the allowable Proposition 13 cap. California's appeal window runs from July 2nd through November 30th for regular assessments. The homeowner who received a supplemental assessment notice in April 2026 and believes it was incorrectly calculated has until within 60 days of the notice to file a formal application for changed assessment. California's effective property tax rate is approximately 0.75%. A $100,000 supplemental assessment error costs $750 per year in unnecessary taxes. Now let me walk you through the 3 traps embedded in the assessment process that cause the majority of senior homeowners to miss this opportunity even when they have legitimate grounds for a reduction. Trap 1 is the buried deadline. Assessment notices are legally required documents. They must contain specific information about the assessed value, the tax rate, and the calculated bill. In most states, they are also required to include some reference to the appeal rights available to the property owner. But the legal requirement for that disclosure does not specify how prominently it must appear, how clearly it must be explained, or how specifically the deadline must be communicated. In practice, most assessment notices contain a small paragraph near the bottom of the form with language like, "If you believe this assessment is incorrect, you may file an appeal with the County Board of Review within 30 days of this notice." That paragraph sits between the penalty for late payment section and the payment instructions. Most homeowners read the assessed value, look at the bill amount, and file the paper. The appeal language never registers. Trap 2 is the reassessment cycle multiplier. In states that conduct infrequent reassessments, Ohio reassesses every 6 years in most counties. Some Pennsylvania counties have not conducted a general reassessment in decades. An inflated assessment established in a single year compounds for the entire cycle without correction. The homeowner does not receive a new opportunity to appeal the base year assessment once the appeal window closes. The inflated number becomes the foundation for every tax bill until the next general reassessment. A homeowner who misses a 30-day window on a $50,000 overassessment in a state with an 8-year reassessment cycle is not just losing 1 year of overpayment. They are locking in 8 years of overpayment on a mistake they had a 30-day window to correct. Trap 3 is the assumption of accuracy. Most homeowners, particularly senior homeowners who have owned their properties for decades and have a long-standing relationship with the county tax process, treat the assessed value printed on the notice as authoritative. County assessors use computer-assisted mass appraisal models that apply algorithmic adjustments to broad market data across thousands of properties simultaneously. These models do not inspect individual properties. They do not account for the deferred maintenance issue that reduces your home's market value below the neighborhood average. They do not account for the fact that your lot is smaller than the comparable properties used in the model. They do not account for the commercial development that reduced your street's desirability compared to 2 blocks east. The model produces a number. The number goes on the notice. The homeowner assumes the county did its homework. The county did not inspect your home. The county entered your address into a database. Challenging the output of that database with actual market evidence is exactly what the appeal process is designed for, and exactly what 40 to 60% of homeowners who file succeed in doing. Send this video right now to one homeowner you know whose property tax bill increased significantly this year. Not tomorrow, right now, because the window that exists for spring 2026 assessment notices is running right now. In California, the regular appeal window opens July 2nd and runs through November 30th, still fully open. In Pennsylvania, the deadline is August 1st. In many other states, supplemental and special assessment notices carry 60-day windows from the notice date that may still be open for notices received in April or May of 2026. One conversation today could save someone $4,800 over the next reassessment cycle. Who built the system that keeps this deadline invisible? The county assessor did not design the system to deceive. The legal framework for assessment notices was written by state legislatures decades ago with minimum disclosure requirements that have not been meaningfully updated in most states. The requirements specify what information must be included, but not how prominently it must be displayed, or how clearly it must be explained to a homeowner who has never engaged with the appeal process. The result is a legal right that is technically disclosed and practically invisible to the majority of the homeowners it is designed to protect. County assessors process between 40 and 60% of filed appeals successfully. They know the appeals that come in are often legitimate. They also know that the majority of homeowners who receive inflated assessments never file. The revenue generated by unchallenged inflated assessments funds county services. There is no financial incentive for the assessor's office to make the appeal process more visible or easier to navigate. The disclosure is technically present. The prominence of the disclosure is entirely within the assessor's discretion, and the assessor's office has been exercising that discretion consistently for decades. The real estate industry failed this audience in the same way it failed them on senior exemptions. When your home is appraised during a sale, the appraiser establishes a market value. When the county assessor subsequently values your home at a figure above that recent appraisal, the discrepancy is documented evidence that supports an appeal. Most homeowners never make that connection. The appraiser does not mention it. The real estate agent does not circle back to say the county just overassessed your newly purchased home, and here is how to appeal it. Mid-roll Addy break. 5 steps to file a successful property tax assessment appeal starting this week. Step 1 is checking whether your appeal window is still open for 2026. This is the most urgent step, and it must happen before anything else. Every state and many counties within states have different appeal deadlines. Go to your county assessor's website right now and find the assessment appeal deadline for your county's 2026 tax year. If you received an assessment notice in the past 30 to 60 days, check whether the deadline printed on that notice has passed. If the regular appeal window for your county is closed, check whether your county accepts late appeals for documented hardship or error. Some counties have an informal review process that can be initiated even after the formal appeal window closes, though formal appeal rights are typically forfeited at the deadline. States where significant windows remain open as of mid-2026. California's regular appeal window opens July 2nd and runs through November 30th for most jurisdictions. Pennsylvania's deadline is August 1st in most counties. Any homeowner who received a supplemental assessment notice triggered by a recent sale, a permit for improvements, or a change in property use within the past 45 to 60 days may still be within their appeal window in most states. Check the date on your notice against the deadline in your specific county. Step 2 is gathering comparable sales evidence before you file. The evidence that wins assessment appeals is recent sales of comparable properties. Recent means within the past 6 to 12 months. Comparable means similar in square footage, lot size, age, bedroom count, and condition. Go to Zillow or Redfin and search your neighborhood for properties that have sold within the past year. Write down the address and sale price of every comparable home you find. If your county assessor's office has a public property search tool, also look up the assessed values of those recently sold properties to understand how the county is valuing comparable homes. If the recent sale prices of comparable properties are consistently below your assessed value, you have your primary evidence. Print the Zillow or MLS listings. Highlight the sale prices. Include the property addresses so the review board can verify the transactions. Step 3 is documenting your property's specific defects and condition issues. Mass appraisal models assume a baseline condition for properties in your neighborhood. If your property has deferred maintenance, structural issues, outdated systems, or other condition factors that reduce its market value below the neighborhood baseline, those factors should be documented and presented in the appeal. Take photographs of every significant defect. Get written estimates from licensed contractors for repair costs if the issues are significant. A failing roof with a $28,000 replacement estimate is evidence that reduces your home's market value by a corresponding amount compared to a comparable property with a sound roof. The review board is looking for specific evidence that distinguishes your property from the comparable base the assessor used. Documented defects with cost estimates provide that distinction. Step 4 is filing the appeal correctly the first time. Most counties have a specific appeal form that must be completed and submitted by the deadline. The form is typically available on the county assessor's website or at the assessor's office. Fill out every section completely. Attach all evidence. Comparable sales listings, photographs, contractor estimates, any independent appraisal you have obtained at the time of initial filing. Do not submit an incomplete form intending to add evidence later. Many county review boards will not accept evidence submitted after the initial filing. The entire case must be made in the initial submission. Submit the form by the method that generates a record, certified mail with return receipt, in-person delivery with a date-stamped copy, or electronic submission through the county's official portal if available. Keep the confirmation. If the review board later claims the appeal was not received by the deadline, you need documentation that it was. Step 5 is preparing for and attending the hearing. Most formal assessment appeals result in a scheduled hearing before the County Board of Assessment review or an equivalent body. The hearing is typically held 45 to 90 days after the appeal is filed. You will present your evidence. The county assessor's representative will present their defense of the original assessment. The board will issue a written decision. At the hearing, present your comparable sales evidence clearly and numerically. Identify 3 to 5 properties that sold below your assessed value. Provide the addresses and sale prices. And ask the board to explain what distinguishes your home from those comparable sales that justifies the higher assessed value. Do not argue emotionally. Do not argue about what you paid for the house. Do not argue about what you think it is worth. Argue the comps. The board responds to market data, not sentiment. Keep the presentation to comparable sales evidence and documented defects with cost estimates. If you are not comfortable presenting the case yourself, many property tax appeal services operate on a contingency fee basis. They charge nothing unless the appeal is successful and take a percentage of the first year's tax savings. For a homeowner with a legitimate overassessment, the contingency model aligns the professional's incentive with the homeowner's outcome. The professional earns nothing unless the appeal wins. Here is what connects everything we covered today. Property tax assessments jumped 9 to 15% in many states in 2026. County assessors used algorithmic mass appraisal models to recalibrate those assessments without inspecting individual properties. Many of the resulting assessed values are inaccurate. 40 to 60% of formal appeals succeed in reducing the assessment. The appeal window is 30 to 60 days from the date the notice is mailed. The disclosure of that window is technically present on the notice and practically invisible to the majority of homeowners who receive it. The trap is the buried deadline combined with the reassessment cycle multiplier. One 30-day window, missed locks in an inflated assessment for 4 to 8 years with no refund and no recourse. The deeper trap is the assumption of accuracy that causes most homeowners to treat the county's number as authoritative rather than as a starting point that can be challenged with market evidence. The escape is specific and time-sensitive. Check whether your window is still open right now today. Gather comparable sales from your neighborhood. Document your property's specific defects. File correctly and completely before the deadline. Present the evidence at the hearing numerically and calmly. The difference between acting within the appeal window and letting the notice sit on the kitchen counter is $3,600 to $14,000 in property taxes paid on a number the county got wrong, and you had a legal right to correct within 30 days of receiving the notice. Carol in suburban Denver put the notice on the kitchen counter. The window ran out. The $487,000 assessment stands for the next 4 years. You saw this video before your window ran out. Or you saw it in time to check whether California, Pennsylvania, or another state with an open window applies to your situation. Either way, the knowledge is in your hands now. Use it. Before you leave, do 3 things. Smash the like button right now because assessment notices are sitting on kitchen counters across America right now. And every like pushes this investigation into the feeds of the homeowners who still have time to act. One tap. Subscribe to this channel, and flip the notification bell to all. I release a new investigation every single week. New deadlines, new appeals, new applications the county hopes you never file. This is the archive. Be inside it. Drop a comment below. Tell me your state. Tell me whether your property tax bill jumped this year. Tell me whether you have ever filed a property tax appeal or whether you even knew the process existed before watching this video. I read every comment. Your situation helps the next homeowner who lands on this channel understand exactly what is available and exactly how much time they have to act. I will see you in the next investigation. Stay sharp, stay protected, and do not let the county collect a single dollar more than the market says your home is actually worth.